The more you explain yourself, the less people respect you, and they feel it instantly. The moment you start justifying your words, something shifts. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. Your position drops. People don't lean in when you explain. They lean back. They start evaluating you, questioning you, measuring how much pressure it takes before you crack. Explanation doesn't sound like confidence. It sounds like uncertainty trying to clean itself up. Watch what happens in real life. The person who talks the most is rarely the one in control. The person who clarifies every move slowly becomes the one being managed. And the most dangerous part? You don't even notice it happening, because explaining feels polite, reasonable, even intelligent. But socially, it does something else entirely. It usually doesn't start as open disrespect. No one raises their voice. No one attacks you directly. It starts with a question that sounds harmless. Why did you do it that way? What did you mean by that? Can you explain your thinking? You answer calmly. You assume clarity will solve it. But notice what changes. The moment you explain, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer acting, you're responding. You're no longer deciding, you're justifying. Now, the conversation isn't about the decision anymore. It's about you. Your tone is analyzed. Your reasoning is picked apart. Small gaps in your explanation become openings. Someone interrupts. Someone disagrees, not strongly, just enough to test you. You feel it, so you add more detail. You try to sound reasonable, balanced, fair. And that's when it becomes negotiation. Every sentence invites another question. Every clarification lowers the bar for the next demand. What started as one explanation turns into a slow audit of your competence. You weren't misunderstood. You were being measured. In social situations, explanation is rarely requested for understanding. It's requested to see how you handle pressure, to see if you'll bend, to see if you need approval. Think about workplaces, relationships, even friendships. The person who is constantly explaining their decisions is never the one setting the direction. They're the one being reviewed. Over time, people stop taking your choices at face value. They wait for the follow-up. They expect a justification. They learn that your decisions are flexible because you treat them that way. Your status doesn't collapse. It erodes, slowly, quietly, one explanation at a time. And the worst part is how normal it feels. You tell yourself you're just being clear, just being mature, just avoiding conflict. But socially, you've accepted a lower position, one where your actions require permission to stand on their own. That's how power disappears, not through confrontation, but through the habit of defending yourself when no defense was required. Stoicism looks at that moment differently. It doesn't ask, how can I explain this better? It asks, why am I reacting at all? Because explanation in that moment isn't neutral. It's a response to pressure. And every response gives the other person information about your confidence, your emotional state, and how easily you can be moved. From a Stoic perspective, power isn't proven through clarity. It's preserved through restraint. When you explain too quickly, you reveal that the question affected you. that it disrupted your internal balance, that you felt the need to correct how you were seen. Stoicism treats that impulse as a weakness, not a moral failure, but a strategic one. The Stoic understands something uncomfortable. Most social pressure is designed to trigger a reaction, not to gain understanding. The question is just a lever. So instead of rushing to clarify, the Stoic pauses, not to calculate, not to manipulate, but to remain unmoved. This pause does something subtle. It interrupts the expected flow. The other person doesn't get the emotional signal they were looking for. No defensiveness, no urgency, no need to be seen as reasonable. And because there's no reaction, the situation begins to reshape itself. The pressure loses direction, the questioning loses momentum. What was supposed to be an evaluation suddenly feels unnecessary. Silence in this context isn't absence, it's control. The Stoic isn't withholding information to appear mysterious. They're refusing to let external judgment dictate internal behavior. Clarity still exists, but it's delayed, measured, and minimal. Only what's necessary. Only when it serves function, not ego. And that's the shift. When you stop treating explanation as a default response, you stop reinforcing the idea that your actions need approval. The situation recalibrates around you. People adjust their tone. Their questions soften. Sometimes they disappear entirely, not because you asserted dominance, but because you removed the leverage. That's Stoic control, not forcing respect, but making pressure ineffective. At the center of this is one rule: never defend your ego. The ego is the part of you that wants to be understood, validated, and seen as reasonable. It's the part that tightens when someone questions you. The part that whispers, "If I explain this properly, they'll get it." That impulse feels logical, but socially, it's dangerous. The moment you defend your ego, you reveal that your self-image is exposed, that it can be challenged, that it needs protection. Explanation in this context isn't communication. It's emotional self-defense. And defense always signals weakness. Not because you're wrong, but because you've accepted the frame that something is wrong. When you explain yourself, you step into a lower position without realizing it. You accept the role of the accused, the evaluated, the one who must justify their presence, tone, or decision. The Stoic refuses that frame entirely. They understand that ego defense creates dependence on external approval. Every explanation says, your interpretation matters more than my stability. So the Stoic does something counterintuitive. They let misunderstanding exist, not to punish, not to provoke, but because clarity isn't owed when authority is already established. If your decision stands, it stands without narration. If your values are solid, they don't need translation. The Stoic knows this. People who respect themselves don't rush to correct perceptions. They allow reality to do the explaining. This doesn't mean silence in all situations. It means silence when the explanation is driven by discomfort, not necessity. There's a difference between informing and defending, between stating facts and protecting identity. The Stoic rule draws a hard line there. The moment you feel the urge to explain because you feel smaller, stop. That urge is the ego asking for relief, and relief comes at a cost. When you don't defend your ego, something shifts. Others sense it. They feel the absence of need. No tension, no scramble to be understood, just presence. And presence, socially, is stronger than any explanation you could offer. In real life, this doesn't look dramatic. There's no speech, no confrontation. It looks almost boring. Someone questions your decision. You answer once, briefly, not to persuade, not to convince, just enough to state what is. No backstory, no emotional padding, no defense. If the question comes again, you don't escalate. You don't add layers. You don't search for better wording. You stay where you are. Short responses do something powerful. They close doors instead of opening them. They signal that the decision is complete. I decided this was the right approach. That's how I'm handling it. This works for me. Then you stop. Silence after a short answer is not awkward. It's stabilizing. It forces the other person to deal with the reality in front of them instead of pulling you into explanation mode. Most people keep pushing only when they sense movement, when they feel uncertainty, when they believe another answer will come. Consistency removes that incentive. Over time, your behavior does the work for you. People learn what you tolerate. They learn how much access they have to your reasoning. When they realize explanations aren't automatic, the questioning changes. It becomes more careful, more intentional, and eventually it stops. This doesn't mean being cold or dismissive. It means being grounded. You still communicate when function requires it. You explain processes, not identity. Outcomes, not emotions. If someone genuinely needs information to act, you provide it. Cleanly. Once. But you don't linger. You let results speak. You let patterns form. You let time remove doubts that words never could. The key is restraint under pressure. That moment when you could say more and choose not to. That choice accumulates. People stop testing you because there's nothing to test against. No emotional reaction, no shifting ground, just steady behavior. And steady behavior becomes reputation. Not because you demanded respect, but because you never negotiated your position in the first place. Those who respect you don't need explanations. They watch what you do. They notice consistency. They draw their own conclusions without dragging you into defense. And those who demand explanations, the constant justifications, the emotional footnotes, were never trying to understand. They were trying to see how much of yourself you'd hand over. Control doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue for legitimacy. It doesn't rush to correct perception. It remains still. When you stop explaining, some people drift away, others adjust. A few become uncomfortable. That's not loss, that's sorting. Because the moment you no longer defend your ego, you remove the leverage others thought they had. And what's left is simple. Your actions stand. Your presence speaks. Nothing else is required.